Hey everyone, my name's Catherine. Welcome back to my channel. I make videos about dyeing, sewing, and upcycling. If that sounds like something you're into, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Today I'm going to be talking about natural dyeing with avocado stones and skins. I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful patterns. So first, let's go over the supplies that I used for this project. First, I used a hot plate. You can also use a stove, or you can do it in your kitchen. I just was doing it in my studio space, and I'll put links to all of the supplies down in the description below. Next, I have about 21 avocado stones and the skins. I saved them for months in the freezer, and then I washed them really well to make sure that none of the avocado was stuck to them. So you can either save up your avocados or go to a restaurant and get some there. The next thing I'm going to use is salt. I'm going to be using about a cup of salt, and that's going to help to make the dye from the stone stick to the fabric. I'm also going to be using an iron and an ironing mat. Then I'm going to be using a large stock pot. I use this stock pot only for dyeing. Even though it's natural dyeing, I just don't mix my dyeing and my eating pots. I'm going to have a slotted spoon and 3 pre-washed tea towels that are 100% cotton and rubber bands for tying up my tea towels. Other things that are not pictured are 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking soda and Synthropol, which is also known as dyer's detergent for washing afterwards. So first I'm going to start by making my dye with the avocado stones, and I am getting my stock pot all loaded up with about 8 cups of water, and I'm going to add all of the cleaned avocado stones to it. I did this in a really slow way, and so here it is after about 30 minutes of simmering. Here it is about 5 hours of simmering and cooking on low. You can see I'm starting to get some really nice color. So the stone started to kind of break down, so I decided to take the dye out of the pot and just set it aside. And then I sorted out all the good stones and got rid of all the mushy stones. I'm going to set that dye aside and then add more water to the pot and my skins. I'm going to make sure they're cleaned really well, and then I'm going to simmer them for about 5 hours. Meanwhile, after I've pre-washed my tea towels, I'm going to fold them, and I'm going to be using some Shibori folds. It's really important to pre-wash your fabric so that all the sizing and the dirt that might be on it can get washed off and it will be ready to take the dye. So I'm going to just do some accordion folding, and then I'm going to do ichijimi folding into an equilateral triangle. If you're interested in seeing other fold inspiration, you can look on my YouTube channel. I have many folding tutorials, and if you are interested in taking my online Shibori class, I go over many folds in that class that all build on each other. You can go to my website at onyxartstudios.com and see the upcoming dates. I also have multiple Skillshare classes available, and you can try Skillshare for 14 days free with the links down in the description below. So be sure to check out my website for more information on my workshops. When I'm doing the Shibori folds, I like to make sure to use an iron and an ironing mat. You can also use an ironing board if you want, but I do really like this ironing mat because it's 100% wool and it's totally flat and wider than an ironing board. So it's nice when I'm doing Shibori folds. The next fold I'm going to do is the mandala fold. So I start by folding it in half and into quarters. And then I'm going to proceed to fold a paper airplane type shape and press it, and then just accordion fold it onto itself until the whole thing is folded. I'm just making sure to press all the folds really nicely so that I get a nice crisp pattern. I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing on the other side. So once it's totally folded, I'm going to take a couple rubber bands and wrap them around. I want to make sure they're really tight, and I'm going to kind of make them a little bit uneven so that I get almost like a rose pattern. So I want the wraps of the rubber band to create almost like a petal. So I want them to have like bulges and kind of undulate, not like a concentric circle wrap, but a little bit more organic. The next fold I'm going to do is just a basic stripe, and this is a really good pattern for these kind of like vat dyeing projects because they get really dyed because there's so much exposed fabric. So I'm going to just do a really thin rectangle here and press it. So I'll just keep pressing these accordion folds into this rectangle all the way until this first half of the tea towel is completely folded. And then I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing on the other half. So once I get it completely folded into a giant stack of long skinny rectangles, then I can put the rubber bands on to create the stripe resist. I'm just making sure to give this a lot of steam, and I want to make sure that I'm getting these rubber bands on very tight. Each rubber band is going to be an individual stripe, so I just am going to make sure I'm putting them symmetrically on the piece, or all evenly spaced rather, and you can also adjust them after you get the rubber bands on if you want to make them closer together or farther apart from each other. If you're interested in learning more about natural dyeing, I'd really recommend getting Jenny Dean's book, Wild Color. It's really well done, and it gives you a deep dive into natural dyeing. I'll put the link down in the description below for you if you want to check it out. I also have multiple videos on natural dyeing, and I'll put the playlist link down in the description so you can check out more of my natural dyeing videos. Let me know in the comments if there's any other natural dyes that you'd like to see videos on. I'm always curious what you guys would like to watch, so go ahead and drop me a comment if you have anything specific you'd like to see. So I have been simmering these skins for 5 hours, and then I let them cool overnight and just continue to soak in the water. And this is the next day, and I'm going to add the dye that I made with the stones back into the dye with the skins. And I have collected the stones that are in good condition still, and I'm just going to put them in because I think I can get more dye out of them. This is a very slow process, and I'm just trying to get all of the color out of the stones and skins and all of the natural tannins. So avocado stones have natural tannins, which means you don't have to use a mordant, which is really nice, and it's just a very natural way of dyeing. I simmered all of this for another 2 hours, and then I let it cool completely, and I let it just sort of steep overnight. So now I'm going to take out all of the skins and the stones, and I'm going to strain it to get it ready to add the fabric. Here is a little test strip that I had in there. You can see it's pretty orange, but it looks like it's getting some really good color. So I'm going to strain it with this little tea strainer I have here, and I'm going to put that in the description below if you want to get that tea strainer. I cleaned out the pot, and I'm going to add the dye back into the pot and more water. I just want to make sure that the fabric will be completely submerged. Now I'm going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of baking soda, which is alkaline, and that's going to keep the color a little more pinky. I'm going to put it onto my hot plate on low and add about 1 cup of salt. The salt is going to make the water negatively charged, and that will allow the fabric to absorb more of the dye. I'm going to stir it up really well. I want to make sure that the salt gets totally dissolved and it isn't just sitting on the bottom. I'm going to add just a little more baking soda for a little bit more of a pink look. I'm going to just completely stir it up, and you can see it's getting some really pretty pink froth on the top. Once it's totally dissolved, I'm going to add my tied up Shibori tea towels. I'm just going to stir it and make sure everything's totally dissolved and the fabric is getting evenly submerged. I want it to be completely covered with the dye. So if you need to add water, add a little bit more water, because you know it will evaporate over time. So what I did is I just let it simmer for about 5 hours. I let it cool down, and then I turned it on again to let it come back up to a simmer. And I just did this a few times just to let the dye really get into the fiber. I just kept checking on it to see how the color was developing, and once it got to a place where I didn't think it was going to get any darker, I brought up the fabric over the spoon like this and let the steam kind of hit it. And then I brought it to my sink and started to rinse it with cold water. I just rinsed it until the water ran clear, and just to make sure it wasn't hot anymore before I opened up my designs. You can see it got a pretty nice pinky color. It's more pink than the test swatch I did, which was more of an orangey rust color. And you can also check out my other video of doing avocado dyeing. I used clips that had iron in them, and it actually made the vat a little bit more of like a purpley gray color, which is very interesting. So you can manipulate natural dyes with different mordants or metals to get slightly different colors. So now it's time to reveal the designs, which is always the most exciting part. Here's the stripe, which turned out really nice. I got a nice dark color. It will dry a little lighter, of course, but I think I got a pretty nice color for natural dyeing. Natural dyes tend to be a little bit more muted and softer. Here's a really nice equilateral triangle. Turned out really nice. I love how you can see the outlines of the triangle, and it kind of looks like starbursts. Now, time for our mandala pattern, which turned out really nice. I got some really nice petal type shapes in there. I'm really happy with the way that one turned out. So I rinsed these again with cold and then washed them with Synthropol, which is also known as dyeer's detergent, and warm water, just to get out all the excess dye and salt and baking soda and everything. And then I dried them on hot to set the dye. So here they are. They're all finished and they turned out really nice. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. You can follow me on social media at Onyx Art Studios for Facebook and Instagram. And you can also check out my workshops on my website, onyxartstudios.com. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can watch more natural dyeing tutorials on my channel on these links here. And you can also check out more dyeing inspiration on my channel's different playlists. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.